Now, just say you have a habit that you can't control or you feel like you have no control over. You actually can control it, but the key to this is the reprogramming. So if you've never learned about how to program yourself, this lesson is going to be really interesting. Let's look at the mechanics of a habit loop. There's 3 points to a habit. There's the cue, there's the routine, and then there's the reward. The cue is like the trigger. It's the thing that sets you off on the path to do something. The routine, now it can be physical, it can be mental, or it can be emotional. So the routine is the thing you do in response to the trigger. So if something stresses you out and you choose to eat ice cream, then the thing that's stressing you out is the trigger. So receiving bad news, for example. The routine is eating the ice cream. So that might be the routine. That's a physical routine. That's something that you physically do. But a routine could be mental. So it could be stressing out. It could be overthinking, or it could be negative self-talk. It can be something you think. It could be something you say. It could be something you do. So routines can be all different. And a trigger can set off more than one routine. So if it's a big habit, or what we call a cornerstone habit, it could be one trigger that sets off 10 different routines. This is why it's so powerful to look at the habit rather than the food, because if you find a trigger and you identify and you alleviate the trigger, you might very easily get rid of 10 bad habits all in one go. Rather than thinking about one habit and how do I alleviate this one habit, what's the trigger? Because that trigger could be triggering more than one habit. And if you just go right back to the source, it's like cutting it off at the source. The third part's the reward. So this is the part that matters. So if you have a trigger and you have a routine, the reason why you feel compelled to repeat that routine every time is because of the reward system. So whatever you're doing is giving your brain a hit of dopamine and it's making you feel good in some way. Eating ice cream tastes delicious, going to give us a hit of dopamine. So the brain recognizes this as a sequence because you've repeated it several times. So if you do something repetitively, the brain is going to recognize the sequence, and as a form of saving energy, is going to chunk it together into a sequence, and then it becomes blocked in your brain as a habit. So next time you do it, it's easier to do it because it requires less energy. So this is why once you've done something several times, it's much easier to do it, and it kind of goes into your peripheral. It's like when you first start driving. I remember when I would look in the rear view mirror, I would always accidentally kind of steer towards the mirror a little bit. And then over time, I learned to look in the mirror and keep driving straight on the road. But I had to do it several times for it to become automatic, and then I could do it without thinking about it. So you actually have to do something repetitively to teach your brain that there's a new sequence involved. But if you have a habit that you are struggling to break, that is because the reward system is so strong that your brain has decided to keep that as a habit. You can't actually break a habit, but what you can do is create a new habit that goes on the top, and you need to make sure that the reward system is the same or better. Because if the reward system is not the same, the brain won't actually piece it together as a habit, and then it's still going to feel like an effort to you. So for it to start feeling effortless, you've got to figure out a way to reprogram that habit and make sure that the new habit has a reward system which is the same or better. So let's look at some examples. Just say you sit down every night, flop down on the couch after a really hard day and you're tired and you want to watch your favorite trashy shows as a bit of wind down. So that's part of your routine. The cue is being tired from a day at work, maybe emotional. So you reach for biscuits because you want to lay on the couch and want to do something enjoyable while you watch your favorite show. And the reward system is that it tastes good and it gives you a hit of dopamine. So if we keep the trigger, because we're not going to quit our jobs, are we? So the trigger's still there. You get home at night, you're still tired, you still want to watch your trashy shows, but instead of eating chocolate biscuits, you make yourself a healthy liquid meal. What you've done there is you have identified the cue and you've changed the routine. But the key is the liquid meal has to taste good for it to turn into a habit. Otherwise, what will happen is you'll just keep craving the thing that gave you the hit of dopamine. You're also going to feel better because it's healthier. So you're going to have a better sleep. You're going to wake up in the morning feeling more refreshed and less groggy because you weren't eating crap the night before. So that's one way of identifying the trigger and changing the routine. You might also, if you have a wine every night, you might swap from a white wine to a red wine. Red wine has got antioxidants in it. It's a healthier choice. So I'm not saying you have to just go cold turkey on these things, but sometimes it's a case of just like slow elimination and knowing that you don't have to get rid of the trigger or the cue. Sometimes it's just about changing the routine. Maybe you're staying up late at night scrolling on your phone which means you sleep late in the morning, so you don't get up and have breakfast. And because of that, then you have cravings. So at morning tea, you're grabbing a biscuit from the biscuit tin. That there, the trigger is staying up late at night. The routine is sleeping in, and the reward is having that biscuit. But what you could do in this case is put your phone in another room, set the alarm really loud so that you have to get up in the morning, it stops you from scrolling at night. Or you pre-make your liquid meals so that in the morning you have less time and you can drink that liquid meal in the car on the way to work, because then you're not going to crave that biscuit by the time you get to work. So it's really important to look at the pattern. And when you are going through these negative cycles, you will tell yourself each time that you're only doing it this time. This is why data collection is so powerful, because in the moment you can reason yourself into doing something. But if you write down in your diary that you do this every day, so every day you've written down a chocolate biscuit, 5 days you've had a chocolate biscuit, in your brain while you're doing it, it's going to feel like you had one chocolate biscuit. But then you look at the week and you go, oh, I ate 2 packets of biscuits this week. So it gives you that very hard look at your behavior. It makes it much easier to figure out what to do next. So it could just be a case of pre-making all your liquid meals so you can take something on the way to work. Or it means putting your phone in another room. In some drastic cases, it's changing your job, because sometimes people stay up late at night because they don't want to go to sleep, because they know that once they've gone to sleep, they're going to wake up and go to the job they don't like. So some people are going to do really drastic things. It doesn't have to be drastic, but what it does need to be is something that you can sustain repetitively until your brain has recognized it as a sequence, because then it's going to chunk it together and it's going to go into that deeper layer of the brain, turn into a habit, and then it becomes on autopilot. Maybe you're struggling to get into a routine of going to the gym. So that might be buying yourself a really cool new pair of gym shoes or a cool new gym bag, laying all your stuff out the night before. I know whenever I have new gym gear, all I want to do is go gym. So I'm not saying you need to buy new gym clothes all the time, but sometimes setting out those little visual cues really makes you excited to go to the gym. And you only need to go repetitively a certain number of times before you start to feel really good. And then you just go to the gym because you want to keep feeling good. Then what happens after a while is you don't feel good unless you've gone to the gym. That's a good habit to get into. So here's an action task for you. And this might be, you might have already nailed it in lesson 1. Identify a cornerstone habit that really needs to change. Recognize the cue or the trigger. Insert a new routine. But make sure the reward is worth remembering, because if it's not, your brain will not recognize it as a sequence. This is the key. You cannot break a habit. You can build one on the top, but the key is to make sure that the reward is equally as enjoyable, if not even more. Then it's going to set in stone really quickly.